So Martin is not going to be on, right? Oh, okay.
Good
A vinyl.
afternoon, everybody. Hello, welcome to
Hi.
WATN. Hi. Where are they now?
Hello.
I see my guest is very excited. As you know, every week I talk to iconic South African artists, people in the music biz, local and international, and we find out how they came to this point in their lives. And their lives have been very worth lived because they've been living it in the public eye, and we've seen them grow, we've seen them go on these journeys. And we hope to dig in there and just discover what makes them tick, because I always say, tick they do. So in the studio today is a man I've known for about 35 years, would you believe it? That's a long
40.
time.
It's a long
Yeah,
time.
probably about 40 years.
40 years,
He's a
yeah.
talent for blowing his own horn and contributing to the music industry and very diverse and much needed ways. Sipho Hotstix Mabuse in the studio today, darling. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Cindy.
Firstly,
Thank you.
it's such a pleasure. I just want to tell you that this is the place that we're going to tell some truths and some stories, and we're going to share with the people all the things you've accomplished. This is a safe place to say what you've done. You know, some people say, oh, I don't like to tell people all these things, but here we want to hear them. We want to hear who you've played with, the contributions you've made, any people that have given you some inspiration along the way. We're going to talk about all that. So that said, welcome, Sipho.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Cindy. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I've always wanted to look at you and talk to you. You know why?
Yes, I do know why. We can maybe share some of that information a bit later. But I'm glad
It's
you
really,
still feel that way. That's
absolutely.
awesome.
That's the
Thank you.
first thing I told Julian when he walked in. I said, oh my, I'll be her substitute anytime.
I love it. And that would be fine with me, darling, after all this time, eventually.
Absolutely. You know,
So,
it's always good to chase after something very good.
And Martin's here
is
as well,
that
so
what
I
it
can bring him
is?
in.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Chase
fantastic.
and waiting for it is no stress.
You are making me a little bit blushy today. I'm the one that's meant to make you blush. But I do appreciate it very much because I know you're sincere, because it has been going on for quite some time. So
Absolutely. I
I
had
do.
to ask you to come back home, remember?
You did ask me when I was sick in hospital.
I
You
phoned you and I
spoke to my
spoke to you.
dad and you said, tell her to come home. Hamba kaya wena.
Yes.
It's time to come home. And it was right, because after my cancer, I did come home
And I
and
said, please
I
come
healed
home.
here.
I can
And here
see.
we are.
Very well so.
Sipho, let's go right back to the beginning. I always like to ask where it all started for you. Where did the music start? Did the instrument start first? Did you start first singing, dancing, doing whatever? Where did it start?
It all started well, I don't want to say it started at high school, but yes,
Okay.
the professional
Okay.
side of it started at high school, but it's always
Right.
been around. It's always been something that I loved doing. Townships. Townships are known
Yes,
for being musical. You go to,
absolutely.
if there's a wedding, there's a funeral, there's a party, there's always music. And
Yes,
given the impressionable age, one finds oneself being ensconced in all these things, and
yes,
you really believe that this is what's going to happen. And of course, as a drummer, I started actually listening to traditional music at the very, very early age. I think I must have been
right.
about 8 years, in Shantytown, where my parents lived, and of course where I was born, there were
Yeah.
always traditional intertribal, festivals and so on. But most of it was anchored by drumming. So she
Of
would
course,
always
it was
ask me,
always yeah.
yes,
Because
one of those great traditional healers would ask me to come and play because he could see that I was very curious as a young,
yes.
and I started
And then
playing
it just
drums.
led to that. Well, as you said, I mean, that culture, living in a township, being surrounded by that music all the time, you cannot help but being affected by it in some way, you know.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
either you become a musician or you become something to do with
Yeah.
it. I
You,
remember as a little girl also, I used to go into my maid's room. That was what they were in the day, called the maids, housekeepers. And I was always
yes.
dancing to her music on on her radio station.
Right.
And my mother used
Right.
to say, "Why are you dancing? What are you doing here?" And I said, "I like this music, mommy." And I remember that
And then
there's
you became
nothing.
Zia.
And then that became later, I got the chance
Yeah.
to experience that in my life. But to have grown up with that, it's a very special thing. And people see it, oh, it was a bad thing or a this thing or whatever. I think it was a very special gift to grow up with that around you.
Absolutely, absolutely. For me, I mean, it's. I didn't even believe that it was something that I would end up doing because
Yes.
obviously in our society, in our community, one of
Yeah.
the most important things which was emphasized is to get
Yes.
educated.
Education, of
If
course.
you became a musician, yeah, you want to become, a druggie, you want to be, because
Sure.
the impression that was created at that
Yes.
time is that musicians had no value to bring into society, unless of course you had
Absolutely.
traveled overseas and performed with some of the great musicians. Even though there was always music in the house, but
Yes.
it should not be brought into the house by you. Other people must bring
Absolutely.
the music into the house.
It was the same with me. I mean, our society was like, oh, she wants to be a musician. What are you talking about? She must go to university or she must get married and have children.
Oh,
So that was my choices. And I was like, not going to happen, baby. I knew also at a young age that this is my calling. So, of course, the drums were your first instrument,
first
perhaps.
instrument, yes.
Where
It was
did you
my
move
first
to
instrument.
from there?
Well, I went to high school. When I went to high school, I met these other friends. I may call them Selby, who was very, very much influential in, how I decided to become a musician. And there was Alec as well. There was Monty.
Okay.
We formed a
Yes.
high school band called the
Yeah.
Beaters. They didn't have a drummer then. And I was brought into the band as the drummer. I hadn't played a whole drum kit.
Okay.
I played mostly cadet band, the snare drum and so on.
Cadet,
And I
yes.
thought,
Okay, gotcha.
yes, and I thought
Yeah.
I could be a drummer. Whoa!
Different animal.
When I was presented with the whole drum kit, it was a big challenge for me. I mean, I had to start practicing and practicing, and we did all the Beatles songs, the Rolling Stones.
Love it.
We were a pop group in the township,
That would have
like
been
the
so
Beatles.
cool.
Like the Beatles. And we considered ourselves a very elite type band because most of the bands and musicians at that time were not at school, but we were at high school. You see,
Okay.
we were the educated lot. So we could speak English, we could perform white men's music. So
Right,
many of
right.
our colleagues at schools loved us. We started performing at all the high schools as a drummer. And from
Yes.
then onwards, I realized I needed to compose music. The next best thing for me was to go in and start learning how to play piano.
Okay.
It's I must say that though, I was a hot drummer. I was
Yes, you
most
yes.
most yes, you know that.
And you probably still are, darling. You probably still are a hot drummer.
Most
It
drummers
doesn't go away.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Most drummers
No,
would
it's
sit on the side stage, watch me play, and
yeah.
they would panic. But
I love
you
it.
know, the nicest thing about it is that I I was a very curious musician. I always wanted to learn everything that was available in music. So I went in to learn the piano because I needed to compose music. I could not be watching all these guys around me composing music and I become just a backing guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you got involved in that, and then I mean, what was next was piano, and
Yes.
then
Flute.
flute. Wow.
I studied classical flute, by the way. And
Wow.
actually, I had the flute. I thought I was going to play a tune for you, while we're having this interview.
I would love that.
I wanted to play for you.
Oh, you must.
Yeah, now I'm going to
think-
play.
I think our viewers would go absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I'd love to. I thought I was going to play a beautiful melody for you,
Get your flute for you.
Yes, please.
We
get my
would love it.
flute
I'm
for me.
already seeing so many people are on board. You can't see them, Sipho, but I can see them. They are
Yeah.
sending messages and saying how beautiful. Well, of course, Martin is saying hi. Stephen Gazer, Pauline, hi, everybody. Amy LaRue is on. Tim Hill, all the way from the UK. Delia, my
Wow.
friend. It's
yeah.
just awesome. I can see everybody's coming on board just to say hi. This to me was a very exciting interview. I've had beautiful interviews so far, and everyone is special. But I think this feels a little different to me because we came up through these different times of growth in this
Absolutely.
country and as
Yes.
humans, Let's
That's the
have a
baby.
little bit of a flute thing. Come on, let's hear it. Bring it on.
Cold out here. It's cold out here.
Is the flute cold or you cold? Whoa.
That was my second
Wow.
instrument. And that was a Jethro Tull piece I was trying to play.
I know that. I was going to say to you that was a Jethro
Aqualung.
Tull piece. I knew it. Aqualung, absolutely.
Aqualung,
You see,
yes.
because you were a rocker, you had, there was always this cross-cultural thing with you
Yeah.
that you still had, you had the African beats and the vibe and all that, but then you were playing the rock music and the pop music, and that takes you to a different level when you're playing.
I know.
A lot of people genreize themselves, Sipho. They say, oh, well, this is what I do. I'm a jazz player, man, and I just play jazz. That's cool. I'm good with that. But I think if you are cross-cultural in some way, and if you do touch on different things and you bring different things in, as a songwriter as well, as a music composer, I
You
think
grow.
that it gives you an edge. You grow with that.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. You're so correct, because I'd never really felt like confined to a particular style of
Yes.
music. I always wanted to learn different things, and one of the things that I did was to go in and study classical flute. I studied classically, and of course I was impatient, and I just felt I couldn't stay in class forever. I wanted to go out there and perform. So I stopped going to classes, and I played as I was going along with the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you leave school?
Yeah, I left school in 1969. Yeah, I left school in 1969.
And you didn't get your matric, did you?
I didn't get my matric then. I just dropped it.
Because-
all of us didn't get matric then.
I know, because you became a professional musician. But something I have to mention, and I remember this very clearly, that you went back and you did your matric again.
Yes, I did. Because
How
I
old
was-
were you?
Cindy, don't tell people how old I am.
No, but how old were you when you did your matric? I think
I
this
was-
is brilliant.
I was 60 years. I was 60. I went back to school, and I thought, well, I've traveled the world, I've toured, but there's always this thing that I've always missed out on. writing my matric and getting my certificate. And that for me was, I was
Quite
very
an
emotional.
achievement.
I was very
Very
emotional
emotional.
actually when I went to, yeah. And once I was in class, then I realized, wow, I could even go beyond that. I could go further, and
Sure.
I enrolled with the university. But then again, I deferred because music was always at the back of my head. It'd say, go and perform, go and do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I totally get it. I would have also liked to have studied, but music just took over completely. My
it does.
father, who you know, my
Yeah.
father said to me, I want a matric and then you can do everything you want. If you do not get your matric, you cannot do everything you want.
You're
And
you're
that was
lucky.
my story.
You're lucky because you had your father to tell you that. I didn't have my parents at that time, so I decided I'm just gonna go that way. And of course, we were very privileged in a way because
Yeah.
we came into this within an education environment. We
Yes.
had our headmaster was a composer, was a musician, choral music. So he loved us
Wow.
coming to
Okay.
school, but
Yes.
unfortunately, he was unable to contain us and retain us in that we stay in school. He would say to us,
Sure.
"Come to school." Play your music within the school, but we would never see all the beautiful girls that we were chasing. Every Sunday we had the concerts out at Donaldson Hall, at Uncle Tom's Hall, and there were all these
Uncle
beautiful young
Tom.
girls that,
Oh my
yeah,
God. I
all these
remember
beautiful,
that.
all the beautiful girls from all high schools loved the
Yes.
Beatles, and I think that's the reason why we left school, probably.
Of course, I'm sure it is. That's a very good reason. I mean,
Yeah,
so many guys, they say, why did you become a guitarist? He says, I wanted to get the girls.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's a
I mean,
true story.
if
I
Mick
love
Jagger could
that.
get all the girls, why not us?
Absolutely. And there's no limits to that stuff. I think it's fantastic. What a story.
Yeah.
You've I mean you've done a lot of stuff. So after school, when you really started becoming a pro musician,
Yes.
where were you then and what were you doing?
Well, you mean after writing a
After
trick or
you
before that? Or
No,
before
before
that, when
that.
we left?
So still
Yeah,
when
well,
you
the
guys
Beatles,
left school,
yeah. Well, the Beatles started touring the,
okay.
the country. We were quite popular with high schools
Okay.
because and universities. So would be invited to all the universities to play, maybe at special functions, or we get invited to all the high schools to go and play there. So we were quite a popular band all over the
Yes.
country. And then,
Okay.
of course, we went to Botswana, where suddenly, wow, there's freedom here,
Yeah.
I mean, for the first time, we had half the audience, white people, coming to listen
Yeah.
to us.
Yes.
It was amazing. And then we went to Swaziland, the same story.
Yes.
We went
Also
to
different.
Lesotho. Then we suddenly realized that there is a possibility. There is a possibility for freedom.
Yes.
And we became
Okay.
very conscious that infilled us with a level of consciousness that said we can pursue a different direction, and we became very, very black conscious and influenced by that.
I love that. I think that is, it's where you came from. I speak a lot about the protest songs of the Leonard Cohens and the Bob Dylans and the Joan Bayers and all those
Yes.
people. I always bring this up that they were screaming about Vietnam and all this stuff. Musicians have the voice. We are
Musicians
the
have the
voice
voice.
of the nations. We speak the
Absolutely.
truth. I was speaking to PJ last week. She was on my show, and she was also saying that, you could say things in a song that it wasn't blatantly, you bastard, look what you did to me, but you could say it in a way, so that you didn't get shot or banned or whatever it was, but you still used to get banned. I had the opposite where like because I was playing with black musicians, I was being
Yes.
ostracized by the police and all that stuff. It was like, oh my God, what are you doing? You know, I got punched by this white guy once because I was
Oh
dancing with black
no.
people. You know, yeah, it's just, I mean, we understood what was happening here. And I think musicians also, Sipa, they have a love for people,
We are
you
the
know.
people.
We are the people. We create this vibe, and we
We
have
bring
such a
joy
love
to
for
people.
people. That's it. We
Yeah.
bring joy, we bring healing, we bring love. And I never saw color. I just wasn't in my makeup. I wasn't brought up like that anyway, but still, it was like from when I was playing in different places and there were black musicians, white musicians, it was not a thing. But then it became a thing because we were fighting for freedom, you know.
Yes.
So you
I
became
mean,
so conscious, you saw what it was like, and then South Africa started transitioning.
I lived apartheid, so I understood it better. I was more privileged to be in that space to be able to express how I felt about it. I mean, it was
Yes,
something that we woke up to, something that we slept to, something that we traveled to all the time. So it
yes,
also, invariably created that sense of consciousness within ourselves to say,
sure.
look, we have a choice of pretending like everything is cool as musicians, but we
Right.
also have a responsibility to add to the confrontation that was taking place at
Yes,
that time.
yes,
As musicians, we composed music which was in line with the struggle of the African people.
yeah,
And of course, some of the concerts that we did with you, Zia, with
of
Hotline,
course.
with Johnny,
Mango, yes, Johnny, of
Mango
course,
Groove, and so
everybody.
on. Yeah, and I think that in itself was instrumental in emphasizing the point that it cannot go on forever. And I know for a
Exactly.
fact that a lot of those people who used to come to the shows, particularly concert in the park, because for the
Yes,
first time you saw in a concert, in a stadium, many white people and black people dancing together. And I'm
yes,
sure those who had been there were wondering what has become of this country. And it was the musicians who created that platform.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The musicians had such an influence, and that's why I'm doing music people and music icons and people that have been involved in the music industry. That's why I want to talk about all this stuff because there is so much history here,
There
you
is.
know?
There is.
Like for me, growing up as a little white girl in Emmarentia, and then going to Soweto, playing with my band on stage in stadiums with only black people, it was like, wow,
Wow. Where have
Africa
I
came
been
to
all
me.
this time?
Yeah, where have I been all my life? I think all it did was it stopped us from having this joy. It stopped us from integrating and having this. I mean, Concert in the Park was was born from a lot of smaller little things that were happening and leading
Absolutely.
towards it. There were shows where people were integrating, there were clubs where people were integrating, and people were just saying, we've had enough, we are just moving on now, you
Yeah.
know. And the music brought it all together. So, music is like, it's the glue that holds nations together in some way.
Absolutely. There was the Colosseum where we had
Yes.
this concert with Juluka and Hotline and Harari. That was one of the, I mean, most of the people who were there were like, really? How come
Yeah.
we've never known about this music that exists?
Yes.
And I must add that, Johnny, may his soul rest in peace,
Yes.
was was in the forefront of
Of
leading
course.
the crusade amongst many white musicians to say
Yes.
if it is possible, and a lot of them, and like yourselves, I mean, you guys suddenly everybody realized that no, it is possible for us to add to this whole struggle, you know, and once we started singing nothing was going to take us back. We're not pulling back from our mission. Our crusade
That's it.
is to to conscientize South African society, black and white, to say
Yes.
this is possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And it happened.
it happened.
It
Here we are.
absolutely happened. Here we are, many years later, having gone through so much, and still, music is still very powerful force in this country. I mean, before the lockdown, of course, people are playing all the time. There are so many shows, so many concerts, lots
yeah,
of stuff
yeah.
happening.
We had
Music is
so
a
many
big
shows,
part
yeah.
of our culture, especially, coming from where we come from. And I just think the struggles and the life lessons that we have all had cannot be touched by somebody else in another country. We've had our own
Absolutely.
specific,
You know, I always say to people, probably people don't even realize the power of music. you know, when I was touring with Al Giro, one of the things I said in an interview is that it always takes musicians to change mindsets. When in England, for instance, that
Yes.
released Mandela concert,
yes,
young people didn't even know who Mandela was at that time. But that concert, with all those great musicians, it took those great musicians to make people realize something is happening in South Africa.
yeah,
What is it that we can do? It took the musicians to do that.
Yes.
Remember? To
of
say,
course it
wow.
was.
So there is freedom that has to be fought for in South
Yes.
Africa. And suddenly the young people, knew there was a Nelson Mandela and all his colleagues were in prison.
Yes.
We are going to join the struggle. We are going to help South Africans free themselves from the apartheid scourge.
Regime, yes.
Yes.
It just, I think all those concerts and all that attention, it put the spotlight on. And it was all through music. I would love to play a video of yours right now, just to show people some of the vibes, some of the things that were going on. Let's do it.
I love touring with your band.
I also loved it. Look at this.
Wow. First time
I
I
mean,
played
have you-
piano.
That night is cold. I'm so comfortable. I am alone.
Look at you, little young boy. And Tandi used to work with us afterwards.
Yes.
She was with Sia.
Fire. I can feel its power. I'm passing here without you. I wish I had your love. Let me tell you something. You've been gone. I just can't wait another day. Let me tell you something.
I love it.
I just want you to know that I'm waiting. Come on, everybody, sing with us, y'all. I'm waiting to celebrate just the two of us.
How many people? Look at those people.
Sure. 125,000 people.
Sure.
The night is cold, I need your company.
Whoa. You know,
Hey?
he's in the States now.
Yeah? That's how I remember you, you know? Grooving, man. Who is playing drums?
Cello. He played with you as well.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah.
This Madam Lungus. Crazy. I love it.
You see what I said?
Whoa. Oh
That
my
was the
God.
first time I played the piano.
The
That
first
was
time.
the very first
Whoa.
time I played piano live. And because I needed to compose songs like the one that I've just done now. I'm
Yes.
waiting to celebrate with you.
Should we get Martin in?
Yes, please.
Let's get Martin.
Is Martin around? I'm so excited. So I'd love to introduce Martin Myers has been Sipho's longtime manager. He has been
And
guiding
friend.
him and helping him and friend. Martin Myers, welcome to the studio, darling. Woo!
Thank you for the other tips. That's my chair.
Hello.
Certainly my room is upstairs now.
Your room is upstairs, Mart. Don't worry, it's there. It's
Yeah,
cold.
good.
Apparently,
He's on.
he's sitting in your chair. I'm sorry to say that, but it's his chair today. Thanks for joining us
I
from
know that.
Cape Town, Martin.
It's a pleasure. I know you're going to ask the question, so I'll answer it. Sipho
Yes.
met me as a young student at UCT in 1985, and I don't know.
kidding
I'm from a
me?
white mother. He's from a black mother, and we like kinship. The colors of the house are the same. My late mom Lottie, fell in love with Sipho. She always used to say, I want to hear Sipho's voice on the phone. He's got the sexiest voice in the world. And
Whoa.
when Sipho used to come to Cape Town, he always stayed at our home and that. And I think that's where he saw the books. And I think that
Wow.
was one of the inspirations for Sipho to go back. If my mom, who was a medical doctor, could retire, and then she went back as a student to UCT and walked the stairs and everything else after retiring. Sipho
Wow.
looked at this and thought, hang on, if Lottie can do this, I can do this. So that
And is
I think
that-
was one of the reasons. Yeah.
Really? Hey,
Sipho never
Sipho?
failed the trick, he just never did it.
That's it.
He's
He
the
never did it.
wisest man
But then
ever.
you did do it. Martin,
did do it.
you know, when you've had a friendship like this for so long and watched somebody grow, watch them go through the different phases of their career and of their lives, you know, there's nothing that could touch that. That kind of bond is something very, very, very sacred. Do you know what I'm saying?
I've been blessed. I've led a very, very privileged life. I've seen something. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier. I've seen stuff that so-called white South Africans will never ever see. That 99.9% of them will never see. I mean, we've laughed with Cyril Ramaphosa. We've told this one to jump off here. There's a great story I've got to tell you. Sipho's going to get
Please.
highly embarrassed, but it's too
No,
funny.
we want good stories, even if they embarrass us.
But the politicians swoon at his feet. If I could get 10 rand from every autograph that he gave or picture, I'd never need to work. You know, he's not called Hotstix for nothing.
No,
Now,
no.
Sipho performs at the Jazz Festival, the Cape Town International Jazz Festival, and then there's a soiree on the Saturday afterwards. We performed on the Friday night, so Saturday at one of the minister's house in Newlands. So I drop him off and I come back. I said, look, I'll come back in about an hour or whatever. I was tired. I was busy. You know the saying with a band, you're herding the cats. So I was herding the cats back to the airport to see if I was staying for the weekend. So I come back And there's everybody dressed, and there's Saki Makazuma, and there's this one, and there's that one. There's one bigger politician after the next, and there's a guy right at the end. So Sipho says, "Do you know who this is?" I said, "No, he looks like Tom Selleck to me. He's dressed like Tom Selleck." Well, Sipho goes blood red. Everybody else laughs, and it's his great friend Tabang Magwetla, who now happens to be the Deputy Minister of Defense. Every time I see him and he sees me, he always goes, "Hello, it's Tom Selleck."
Tom Selleck. I love
Tom Selleck, and this is like become the standing joke.
That's a great story.
But there's stories like this all the way through. I mean, his closest friend, and you must ask Sipho about it, and I'm going to keep quiet, is his great friend, the General, Simpiwe Nyanda. And he wrote this wonderful article last week telling the president, look, you actually need to be ruling like a military ruler. You need to take decisions, and you need to stand by those decisions, and you can't keep on consulting, etc., etc. So I phoned Sipho and I said, there's an amazing article. Will you please tell the general? He said, "Oh, Mike, you've got the general's number. Just phone him and tell him yourself." So you sort of pick up the phone and you say, "Hello, general," and you chat and you laugh. So it's all those things. I've seen his children grow up, and I'm richer for the experience, and incredibly thankful, and with much gratitude. And I love what I do.
And I think yeah, sorry, Sipho, please go ahead.
One of the stories is also about, the whole Graceland story is quite a fascinating story that a lot of people should also hear.
Yes, please.
And I mean, when Paul Simon came to South Africa, and he was sitting right where I'm sitting, and I took him out to Shabin, to Irene's, and the rest is history. I introduced him to Stimela. I introduced him to Teta, because he didn't know many musicians out here.
Sure.
And
so you were his first contact.
I was. Well, there was Hilton. Hilton invited
Rosenthal.
us. Yes, Hilton invited us to a party to meet Paul, and of course politics came. People started talking politics, and I said, well, I think it's better that we don't talk about things that we don't know. Let's rather speak about things that we know. And he looks at me, he says, okay, what do you know? I said, I'll take you to Soweto, then you can see it for yourself. And that's how the relation began. And we started touring around Soweto, and I brought him to the house. He took pictures with my kids. And in the evening, I took him to a Shabin. He was disappointed, because what was being played at the Shabin was nothing anywhere near South African music. And he said to me, "Oh man, I'm so disappointed. I was hoping to hear Lady Smith Black Mambazo." I said, "Paul, people don't dance to Lady Smith. They listen to Lady Smith Black Mambazo."
Definitely not.
I said, they don't dance to the music.
No.
And the following day, I went to the studio, and I found him working with the musicians he really wanted to work with. That's Tauya Maseka, who was from Lesotho, the guy who played the, what's it, the concertina? Accordion, yes. And he was, finding it difficult to communicate with Tauya Maseka because of the American accent English. And I said, you know what? I know musicians in this country who can play anything. Any kind of music that we want. And some of these guys was Stimela were part of that band, and Teta were those bands. And indeed, he went on to approach those guys. If you know who the nucleus of the band was, Ray and Isaac.
That's right.
And Isaac and Bayet and Bagiti on bass.
Bagiti on bass, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a hell of a story.
That was my little contribution
to have these
to Graceland.
memories, I mean, to have those kind of memories, and people don't know this stuff. I've got so many people here. I've got to just say hi. We've got Tim Hill all the way from the UK saying hi, you guys. Hi, Tim. And Jenny Horton's on, and Fame always come on and say hi. Thanks, guys, very much for that.
Hello, guys. Thank you for coming.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
I think we should play another video. How about that? Let's see some more music.
Yeah, but I think you should also speak to Martin more about some of the activities, you know, how he used to drive into Soweto in my Suzuki.
Well, I want to speak to Martin about that, definitely. That's going to be interesting. I've also got some stories about driving into Soweto late at night, dropping off our dancers. And we used to have these little Picanini guys running and saying, the band's coming, the band's coming. And then they'd run to the next one, the band's coming, the band's coming. So they would let us in and let us pass. You know, it was a crazy thing. It was just fantastic. It was an experience of a lifetime. So let's play a video, and then I'm going to talk more to Martin about some crazy stories.
I've been watching every day of my life, messing around with all the guys. Let me tell you one more time, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out. Oh my love, you're gonna burn, burn, burn. Oh my love, you're gonna burn out. Oh my love. I keep telling you that you break my heart, keeping me holding on too long. Let me tell you one more time, you're gonna burn out. Oh my love, you're gonna burn out. Oh my love, you're gonna burn out. Oh my love. Tonight, 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 I'm gonna hold you till you know me right. Tonight, tonight, tonight. It's a different version of burnout. Not the one that
Absolutely great version of Burnout. Never forget that. Never ever forget that.
I've actually never seen this.
It was from
I've never
Espresso.
I know, but I never, you know, once you record it, you don't get to watch.
No, absolutely.
You know, because everybody's watching and you're somewhere there, maybe doing makeup and stuff. Removing makeup.
Or removing makeup. It's
Yeah.
quite weird being a musician. People don't realize all the ins and outs, you know, that we have to deal with, and constantly it's not always what it's cut out to be and made out to be. I just got a message from Pauline. She said, ask Sipho if the Virgin deal was all that it cut out to be. Many years ago.
The less said about that, better for me.
You see, there you go. She
You
used
know,
to work at
I mean-
Gallo and CCP.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Well, you know what? One of the things that I could say it enabled me to interact with some of the top musicians around the world.
Yes.
And of course, I did get some exposure in countries like the US, Germany, Spain, and so on. But obviously, as an artist, you always look forward to that royalty. And when it doesn't come, then it's almost like, wow, was it really worth it? But it was. It was, it was exposure that I would always cherish.
And that's very real to me as well, because for me the
Yes.
clout thing, we were big stars, we were huge, blah blah blah, selling millions, and there were no royalties. There was
Yeah.
no money.
I
So
can
it wasn't
imagine.
all that cracked up to be, but that brought me to where I am today. Here I am. I'm still alive. I'm still working the music. I'm
It's a
still
learning
able to do
curve.
things like this. It was the learning curve. And the struggles that we have to go through as, a musician or as a human being, it makes no difference. Everybody's going to go through something.
Yeah, it's. I think it's every musician's dream to break internationally.
Of
But
course.
what we don't know what is in there, until we've actually learned some of the things that we get exposed to. Yes, it's different markets, it's different world, and the dream of being heard in countries like
Famous, sure.
famous and so on. And
Yes.
sometimes we neglect the necessary things. But I must say that, for me, having Peter Gallo and Ivar come with me in all those trips
Yes.
was one of the most important experiences for me, because they were there to protect my interests as well.
And they were, and you were
I
lucky.
remember when Peter Gallo went into Simon Draper's office, and these guys were just going on, and Peter Gallo said, "Listen, Sipho does not need to be in England. He's quite happy in South Africa as a musician." When Peter said that, it made me feel so good. It made me
Yes.
feel that he loved what I was doing, and he was always going to be protective of that.
He got your back,
He got my back, yes.
Yeah, I love that.
And yeah, we had guys, and I mean, we had Duck Band and Dennis Cusan also coming. I must say, I must have been a darling of that record company, because the big bosses always
course.
went with me, and so
Of
and
course you were the darling.
the next stage, of course, was Martin, who was always there for me.
Yes.
Mart has always been there. He always fought my battles for me. We don't want to be offending people.
That's the thing.
we're in
Musicians are not like that. Yeah.
We don't want to offend people. So it's easier when you say, "No, Mart, deal with it.
Sure.
I don't want to get involved." And of course, he's always there to tell people whether, it's the right thing or the wrong thing. And frankly, having worked with him has been such a blessing. It's been a great
You're
honor to-
you're very lucky, and it is a blessing. I was talking about this with PJ last week as well, that I've never had anybody who's got my back, I've
Yeah,
always had to do
yeah.
everything on my own, and I'm not crying and saying, "Oh, poor me." I'm just saying I don't know what it's like to actually have something. Well, when I was working with Tim
Yes.
always had my back, but he wasn't really a manager. He was more my PR agent, and he looked after me in so many ways. And it was just an amazing thing to have somebody that actually has your best interest at heart.
Right.
But I think, Cindy, thank you, Sipho, for the compliment. But if I can come here, I think it's a two-way street, and I think that's
Yes.
very important. You're working hand in hand together. I love the music, but if the person's not a nice person, it's never going to work. We have a friendship and a respect that is so deep. I've cried in front of Sipho. I've been at the highs. I've been at the lows. I mean, I think one of the proudest moments for me, and Sipho, I think, will blush with it, is when he got the Order of Ikamanga. In this country, we're so giving of awards, but people are not there to see the accolade. He got it on stage from President Cyril Ramaphosa and was able to go there, and I was invited to attend. And the humility and the adoration from people from different sporting codes, and that, I mean, John Smith's face lit up like he just won toys from a candy shop, etc., and from the judge president and all of that. And it's so gratifying to see, because there's a deep humility with Sipho, but there's also a
Yes.
deep professionalism to get it done. I always say, sometimes I come up with an idea and we do it, and Sipho goes, "No, okay, fine, let's do it," because he knows I'll jump into the fire if we
Yes.
need to do it. I mean, we've been to some places that other people won't necessarily go, because he understands it's not about him. If I can leave with one parting shot, I'll never forget. We walked up Lion's Head one day and we parked the car and got out. And this gentleman goes, Kunjan, Hotstix, blah, blah, blah. And it's the car guard, the car gentleman. Sipho goes up and has a 20-minute conversation with the guy. So I'm sitting there waiting, and Sipho, Mart, he's the same as my
This is
politician.
important stuff.
The same as
It is.
these multimillionaires. We all get treated the same. It's a lesson I've never, ever forgotten. And I've repeated it so many times, and it's carried me through, and it's made me a richer person, to learn those things, because there is a deep humility, and I think that's why he's so adored. The songs that he's got, and he'll tell you, and I'm going to keep quiet, are bigger than him now. That they've become part of the fabric, the earthiness of South Africa. I'm privileged to hear them on a regular basis, and it brings great joy.
Well, isn't that what we're trying
Thank
to
you,
do,
Martin.
though? We are trying to. Martin loves you, Sipho, and you love
I
him.
know.
You guys have got a beautiful, beautiful relationship.
Absolutely.
And it is based on respect and gratitude. Those are the things that are vital.
I love the fact that when he comes up to Joburg, Mart will never find a hotel or anywhere. He knows
Comes
his
to stay
home.
with you. I
He
love
knows
that.
his home. He comes here and he knows his room. Is my room ready?
Well, I think it's
but-
very important to have people like that in your life. As I
And
said,
people around here know him. They just,
Yeah.
love him. And there's no sense about, hey, here's a white person in Soweto. For him, it's neither here nor there. Ask him about Badela's, the restaurant.
No, that's the place you've got to go to, Cindy. Badela's.
when are you
Yes.
taking me?
Take Cindy, we're taking Cindy.
Yes, and I
That's
told
average. That's
Julian
average.
about it as well.
Badela's. If you go past Winnie Mandela's house and it's on the right, I'll take you there. You have no idea the stakes there. You have no idea.
Oh my God! So the next time you come to Joburg, Martin,
Why do you have to ask Martin to come to Joburg to take you to Badela's when I'm here?
Ooh,
okay,
Cindy.
Sipho, will you take me to Badela's, please?
No, you
I
must
have
go.
I
took
have a
him there.
confession to make. Can I make a confession? Sipho, I'm
Please
allowed
do.
to make this confession.
You're
Yes.
You
allowed
know
to
what I'm
make-
going to say.
I
Many
don't.
years ago, Hazel, I just want to say hello to you, darling. I'm so glad you're
Hello,
watching.
Hazel.
Hazel she's my darling. She looks after all my bits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she does my waxing and my pedicures and all that stuff.
Wow, that's lovely.
So she does look after my bits.
Yes.
Many years ago, Sipho and I went on a tour together. It was our band, Sia and Sipho. It was the Knickknacks tour. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
Knickknacks
I
sponsored
still
us.
have the,
I have a T-shirt from that, and that little Knickknacks guy would always come up in the first part of the show and jump around. It was absolutely crazy. And Sipho and I got pretty close during that time because we were seeing each other every day. It was great. On tour, we were on the bus, we were doing all these things. And he proposed to me.
yes.
And you're still waiting for the answer.
I'm still waiting for an answer.
He's
I'm
still
still
waiting for
waiting.
an answer.
And there was this guy
Didn't
that
you have
was
data,
really...
Cindy? What's going on?
Yes, Cindy, can we have an answer, please?
It's time for an answer, Cindy.
I've waited
Well,
too long,
on-
Cindy.
In public, a public answer.
I've waited too long.
I love the fact that you reminded me about that today. It was beautiful. And
Remember, I asked you to come back home. It was precisely
Yes, you
because I wanted you to give the answer in public.
yes, I know. So we're going to have to go to Badela's. What's it called? We're going to go for. We're going to go to Badela's. We're going to have a steak, and I will give you my answer. And we will
Okay.
tell everybody online what the answer was.
Okay.
Julian, bring a video camera.
Oh, I love
I'll be there.
that. You know, being a star, everything is lived out in the bloody public eye, you know. They're going to
No,
want to.
but Cindy, on a serious note, you've never seen anything like it. On a Sunday night, this place absolutely hums. The food
I
is
can
top drawer.
imagine.
You know, you get these big trays, and it's literally filled with chops and steak. I mean, the
That's
one
my
night we
favorite
went there,
thing.
the one night Sipho took us there. He doesn't like cooking at home, so we're going to Badela's. So it's my stop.
Okay.
So we get there. Oh, there's Cool in the Gang. There's like
I can
half the
cook
jazz.
though.
I
I
know.
bet you can.
No, you can. It's a way to a woman's heart.
Yes.
And then the food just pours out, and they've got a great jazz area outside and everything else,
Yeah.
and it just really is fantastic. It's like the number one spot to go to.
Well, it's a date and a deal. I want to make it happen.
Cool in the Gang with that. Remember
Oh my God.
that night?
So who's going to be there when
Like
we
a
go?
movie.
You're going to have to up the game there.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll welcome you. You know, they are so warm. They're such warm people.
I know. I know.
Our friend lawyer had his birthday there. You know,
Yes.
Barry. Barry
Yes.
had his birthday party, and he didn't even know. And these guys just brought out cake for him, and everybody was singing "Happy Birthday, Barry! Happy Birthday." He never wants to go anywhere else but to go to Badela's.
Well, then it's famous now.
Yes.
Well, I think there's nothing quite like African hospitality. You know, people just don't get it. I mean, I've lived in America, I've traveled a lot in the world, and people are very nice and they're very accommodating and everything. But I tell you what, you go to a place like that or a braai somewhere and there's all these people, there's nothing like it. It's stellar. It's like, it's very, very special.
We will still go back to LA though. You and
I
will
think
go
they
back to
should.
LA.
Yeah, let's
We
go
should.
to LA, man. I love LA.
Not to perform, just walk by the.
Yeah, just hang out.
Yeah.
We've still got a few minutes. I just want to talk about the music business now. You know, it's a different animal, especially with the online thing. Not just I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about the actual business of the music business right now. It's changed so much to when we were doing those shows and doing those things. And if you don't go with the flow and change with it, then you become redundant and it's like pointless. But talk to me how you feel that you have moved into this future of ours. Where are you now? The question of the show, where are you now? What are you doing now?
Is that for me
How
or
have you
for
moved
Martin?
forward now?
You know one thing, Cindy, for me has always been to interact with the younger generation.
Yes.
You learn from them.
Yes.
You know, they teach you how they do their thing. And of course, they also want to learn how you did what you know, that
Sure.
you're still
Works both ways.
You're still in the same space. So interactively, we get together, we listen to things, and we say,
Yes.
okay, these are some of the things. And I must say that it's been a privilege for me that many young people have got to hear the music that I made at some stage.
I love it.
And they want to
love it.
work with it. And it is humbling, you know, when you get either a black coffee or AKA or one of the younger musicians saying, Bro, Sipho would love to come and re-record your song. You know how gratifying
Yes.
that
Oh,
is?
wow.
And
That's
that's how,
huge.
you know,
That's
and
huge.
and it has really kept me in contention. I'm there, and having had someone like Mart to keep me rolling all the time. I mean, I've
Yes.
even heard from my family. They say, you know, Martin is doing some amazing stuff for you. You know, you're always in the media. You're always there.
Yes, that's the thing. It's keeping it relevant.
When many other guys are not doing as much as you do. And hey, Mart, you've done yourself. You know, you've done very well.
You know,
Thank
what
you,
Cindy,
thank
what's
you
so
to you.
gratifying, I got Sipho involved in Music Exchange. He's the chairperson. and the gravitas that he brings.
Yes, I can
And when he
imagine.
talks, whether it's the politicians like Guy Redman, who's the Director General in the Western Cape, and Music Exchange is an international conference, and it's hosted in Cape Town because I live in Cape Town and
Yes.
I have the
Yes.
contact. But you listen and you see the young artists going up and speaking to Sipho and just trying to pick his brain for that knowledge and that inspiration. If I can tell you a story, and I think Sipho will be delighted, and you'll know the one young kid, Milan Rendell. And I saw Sipho walking out in Milan. He's 22, plucked up the courage to speak to Sipho. He's working at UCT and everything else. Cut a long story short, I saw this. Someone said, go and speak to him. He's now been signed by Platoon and Denzel Fagelson, and he's got his album coming out in the next couple of weeks. And that came from Music
Wow.
Exchange, but from someone spotting Milan going
Yes.
and plucking up the courage eventually after attending Music Exchange for 2 years because he was too shy. And then once you're in Sipho's presence, you understand the humility and the giving. And it's like, guys, what can I share? I mean, if you listen to Beatenberg's album, I introduced Beatenberg to Sipho when we were doing the Jazz Festival. They were absolutely
Okay.
flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And then Sipho said, but your riffs that you are playing are from my early band, Harari, and they looked like we were talking about the space shuttle. Then they went back and they started
love it.
listening, and they were like, oh, my heavens. And the two had never met. And I
Yes.
think what we're not doing enough in this country is we're not putting music into the curriculum at an early age in grades
Yes.
9, 10, 11, and
Yes.
12 for people to understand the history. Read about Johnny Clegg, read about Ladysmith Black Mambazo, read about Hugh Masekela, read about Miriam Makeba. I mean, I sit at a friend's house, and we all know him, Jason Curtis. He has BBC Radio 6 on. We must hear, when I come to work at his place, at least 2 or 3 Miriam tracks on BBC Radio 6. I heard all about Tony Allen the other day with the new track that he'd done with Hugh Masekela before he passed away. You're not going to
Wow.
hear that on South African radio.
No.
And those are the things that we need to change. But it's going to be slow. And, you know, Sipho's at the forefront of sitting and speaking because people listen to him. What we have yet to do, he's done, and he's seen it all.
Well, I think it is very important. As you said, Sipho, I did a few lectures like at the ASE, the Academy of Sound Engineering. And these were youngsters. And at first I walked out there and they're like, who's this white chick? What does she know? She's old and she's like, blah, blah, blah. You know how they look at you? And within 10 minutes, you've got them because you tell them where you come from, blah, 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 blah. But what I found from this and what I loved about it and what I love about also working with young kids, mentoring them in some way, is that I learn as much as they are learning. I'm learning.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love that. I love the teaching. I love the lecturing. I love interacting with them, being in the studio with them. It's just, and so I understand exactly what you're talking about. You know, as I said, we've come to the end of the show, and I'm sad, but because we could probably talk for another 5 hours. I've got
Absolutely.
next week's guest. We're changing to Tuesday evenings, just so that everybody remembers. We start Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m. And my next week's guest is Sandy Smith, who's been in the music industry for
Oh,
very many years. She
wow,
worked with
wow.
Miriam for
Yes.
many years.
Wow,
So we're going to be talking
Sandy.
about Miriam a lot on next week's program, Tuesday at 6 p.m. with Sandy. I just want to thank Discover TV for giving me this platform because I think it's important. And this is not my platform, it is your platform to tell us about the music business, to tell us about these stories. Martin, what you're talking about, the stuff that we need to know, the education system needs to change, stuff needs to move on because this is important stuff for all of us. And all the people that come and say hi, Wes and Gail, my friends, and people that just pop in, keep saying hi, keep coming back. I love my guests. Sipho, it's been such an honor to have you here today.
Thank you, Cindy.
I am
Thank you.
thrilled.
I've always waited for this moment.
And here it is, darling. Martin, sorry, we're not talking to you, right? But Martin, also, thank you for coming on board. Thanks for imparting your knowledge, and of that you have much also to like
I don't know. I
tell us
think
about?
we're just a cog in a wheel, and we just try and look forward
Absolutely.
every day with health and blessings. And thank you to Sipho for the great life he's given me. And thank you for Julian for going for the extra mile, because we
I
need
love it.
interconnectivity in the townships, and we need things to happen. So, and
He's
thank
always-
you for the delight.
Julian is amazing.
Jules is
with
always
this.
there in the background. He's always
Thank
there.
you, Jules. He makes us
Thanks,
all
Jules.
look good and sound good. Let's play out with a video.
With Burnout, the original video.
The original Burnout. Please, because I love it.
Don't go anywhere, Sipho. Where you going?
What are they doing? They've got some secret thing going on there. The boys are being
I'm having a
naughty.
glass of wine.
Oh, bravo, darling. I'm drinking vodka. No, I'm kidding. It's water. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. What
Thank
an
you, Sue.
absolute joy and pleasure. That's
Thank you,
the
Cindy.
Sipho.
Thank you.
Thank you. Woo! Woo!
I've been watching you every day of my life. Messing around with all the guys. Now let me tell you one more time. You're gonna burn out all my love. 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 I can feel you, how you break my heart, keeping me holding on too long, too long. Yeah, let me tell you why.